right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. Welcome to the 2025 Candidate Forum this evening. Tonight, we are going to be hearing from the candidates running for Village of McFarland Trustee, Village of McFarland President, and the McFarland School Board. My name is Katie Vogelsang, and I am the Executive Director of the McFarland Chamber of Commerce. Becky Rogers is here as well, and she is our Chamber President, and she's going to be the moderator of our event tonight. This event is an opportunity for our candidates to discuss a wide range of topics important to them in this community and a chance for voters to get to know more about them. Thank you to the Village of McFarland for broadcasting this event. It's available to watch via McFarland's cable YouTube channel, and additionally, this event is being recorded and can be watched again at your convenience. As a reminder, the spring election is scheduled for Tuesday, April 1st. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., and voters should visit My Vote Wisconsin for all Election Day information. Excuse me. Now for tonight's event. Each candidate will be provided an opportunity to introduce themselves before we begin the questions portion of the event. There are 5 questions in total that will be asked of the candidates. The candidate will be afforded 1 minute for the introduction and 2 minutes for each question. We will go in alphabetical order of the candidates' last names. We'll start in this order for the introduction and move to the second person, third person, and so on as we proceed through the questions. Please note we're planning on about 2 hours for this event tonight, and we will not be taking questions from the public this evening. So thank you again for attending, and I will turn it over to Becky, and we will get started.
All right. Thank you, Katie, and thank you to our candidates for coming out tonight. Again, we're going to start with introductions. So, Kathy, can you please provide an introduction? Tell us about yourself, your background, your education, and why you are running for village trustee.
Before I retired, I was employed at a nonpartisan legislative service agency for over 40 years, serving as finance officer for the last 12. While there, I was responsible for various administrative, technological, and financial functions of the agency and of the legislature as a whole. I am the treasurer of the League of Women Voters of Dane County and volunteer as a member of the Wisconsin League's Fair Maps and Judicial Integrity Committee. I grew up on a small Wisconsin dairy farm, which has been in the family since 1850, graduated from Lake Mills High School, and received the best education the Wisconsin legislature could provide. I've lived in McFarland for over 35 years and raised our 2 children here. McFarland's growth is happening on the north and east sides of the village. I am running because I feel it is essential that these areas have more representation on the board. My career has well equipped me to contribute to the board's fiscal oversight, especially in the areas of budget and administrative review.
Thank you, Kathy. Ken?
Thank you for this opportunity to allow people to get to know us better. I'm going to be reading fast because I'm an old man. I got a lot to say. So, my connection to McFarland started in 1954 when my grandfather bought a home and 20 acres on Sigel-Co Road. My mother went to Wabisa School on the corner of Sigel-Co and Holscher, only a short walk from the house, but yes, she actually did walk uphill both ways in the middle of the winter to get to school, as the saying goes. Born in Madison General, preschool in San Jose, California, kindergarten in South Beloit, Illinois, first grade in North Beloit, Wisconsin, second through 5th grade in Lodi, and started 6th grade in McFarland after my parents built a home on Grandpa's land. Graduated McFarland in 1978, pumped gas at the Shell station on Highway 51 from 16 to 19. Married my high school sweetheart and have been together for 48 years. Bought our home adjacent to my parents' home that an uncle had built at the same time as my parents in 1984 and have been there ever since. Raised 2 boys in McFarland, both are living here now. I've seen McFarland change dramatically over the years, some good, some not so good. I was too busy living the American dream to pay much attention to development. Just thought it was an inevitable thing, and it never occurred to me that I could have a say-so in its direction. It all seemed okay to me until my great awakening when I received in the mail a development proposal near my home that set off many red flags based on my over-the-road truck driving experience. This proposal would have not only affected me, but a large part of McFarland residents as well. During my efforts to expose the pitfalls and the detriment to the community that the fruition of this proposal would bring, I I became aware of other proposals, plans, and happenings that I felt compelled to bring to the attention of the McFarland residents who were, like me, just living the dream, thinking that all was in good hands. Many experienced the great awakening that I did and rallied together to put the brakes on a few things and reassess our needs and plans that would affect our quality of life, our tax burden, and our tolerance for debt as a community. That is why I'm running for the village trustee, to be a watchdog for these things. Nobody can say they love McFarland more than me. Thank you.
Hi. Well, first of all, just thank you, Becky and Katie. I really appreciate you giving us this time, and I appreciate everybody who came out to listen tonight. I've lived in the McFarland area for the past 20 years. I went to UW-Madison, where I met my wife. We've been married 23 years now, and we have 2 kids that are currently in the school system. I have one that's going to be graduating in June and another coming up in a couple of years. So my work history, I've worked in IT my entire career. That's what I went to school for. I loved it, love working in technology. So over the past 25 years, I've worked for various manufacturing companies. I've worked for a financial services company. I currently work for an insurance company in Madison. We live near Grandview Commons, Grandview Conservancy, in the village. And in case anybody isn't sure where that one is or what some of the conservancies are called, that's the boardwalk that goes across, and the lift station that's being built. That's essentially in my backyard. So if you want any pictures, let me know. They just put the electrical in the ground today, so it's been interesting to see all that work happening. I also own a small business in the community where I do some of the technical consulting. So I create systems for small companies outside of my regular job. And the reason I want to continue to be your village trustee is that I just want to make a difference. I think that I love listening to people, talking to people, hearing different ideas, and using all of that information and data to make decisions and to make a difference for our village.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It seems weird to say good evening because it's so nice outside. But good evening nonetheless. Thanks for coming. It's always a privilege anytime someone is willing to listen to you speak, so my thanks as well. My name is Scott Peters. My family and I have lived in, I guess I'm the newbie. We've only lived in McFarland since 2016. I live with my wife, Megan, who's a pediatric intensive care physician at American Family. My 2 children, Lucy, who's turning 10 in just a couple weeks, and Sam, who will be 7 this summer, both of whom are in McFarland schools and take well advantage of and try their best to turn the soccer fields into a mud pit as much as possible. We moved here after my wife finished medical school and I finished my doctorate at Purdue University in Indiana, so I've been kind of on a tour of the Midwest over about the last 20 years. And like a lot of families, I think, we moved out here from Madison in 2016 because we outgrew our 700 square foot house, and having 2 children and a dog in 700 square feet just wasn't working. So I think like a lot of folks, we were one of the many more recent folks on the east side of town. So professionally, I work for an educational assessment company called NWEA as their director of research consulting, which mostly that means I work with schools and state departments of ed to use large-scale assessment data to improve instruction for kids. Prior to that, I worked from 2009 to 22 for University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. So I was a professor of educational assessment and research design for 13 years at Whitewater, which is part of why we moved out here to be a little bit closer to my job. And then I immediately changed jobs, and it makes my wife really happy that she gets a longer commute because of that. I also own my own educational assessment and consulting company, so I do work with a lot of schools throughout the Midwest on how to make better use of data and make informed decision-making. And I'm running kind of for a simple reason, which is I want to make it easier to live and then stay in McFarland. I always said that when I finished graduate school, that where any community I ended up in, I would do some kind of civic service. When I moved to Madison, I was on and then chaired the City of Madison's Early Childhood Care and Education Committee for about 8 years. And then as soon as I moved to McFarland, I emailed then Brad and said, yeah, we got this thing called the Plan Commission, and now I've been on the Plan Commission for 5 years. So kind of like Luke, I just had a desire to contribute to my community, and I'm just kind of looking to do that and make the next step on the village board.
Thank you. Okay.
We are going to have to keep these to 2 minutes for your answers just because we do have a lot tonight. So I will give you the 10-second warning. We don't want to cut you off, so please just be aware of the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, question 1. What do you think is the most important responsibility of the village trustee? We'll start with Ken.
Okay, since I went long on my introduction, I'm going to be a little shorter on my questions. So it's fairly simple for me. And the biggest responsibility to me is to ask enough good questions about any proposal that will be voted on to be sure that as much information is exposed, good and bad, positive and negative, and get as much public opinion as possible before casting any vote.
Luke?
I think the most important responsibility of the trustees is to be the bridge between our government, our community government, and our community members. I think that entails listening to what people are saying. We have this great community. They're super engaged. All of you are here tonight. We've had people come out to talk about other issues that we've had on the agenda. And getting outside of my own circle, right? Not just talking to my friends, the people I know, talking to people on the other side of the aisle or the other side of the issue, I think is super important to understand what other people are thinking and how I can use that in my decision making. So for me, that is the most important thing, is to be the connector between the government and the rest of the community.
Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, I think the most important responsibility is to faithfully represent the personal, financial, and then just kind of value interest of the community. And I mentioned both kind of personal and financial because there's always some degree of balancing act in there. You know, we want many great things, but of course we also have to live within kind of our financial realities as any family does. And honestly, this is something I've spent a lot of time doing. You know, the Plan Commission does this a lot. I mean, I think Ken made a really great point of trying to ask good questions and learn as much information as you can so that you can then channel what you understand as the interests and, you know, hopes, dreams, and of the community, and then try to make it the best place you can for them. And so, you know, I've always seen that as the job of any elected representative, and I think that's definitely the job of an elected representative for sure.
Thank you. Kathy?
As village trustee, we are elected to provide a voice to the taxpayers of McFarland and to protect their interests by ensuring that their voices are heard. That responsibility also includes advocating for those without a voice, our children, the elderly, and the needy. Residents want to know that the trustees have their back and will support their best interest. A trustee has a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers to ensure that their money is being spent in the most effective way, that basic services such as safety, roads, and schools are sufficiently funded, and that sound and successful investment in community spaces and smart economic growth are being made for our community. The most important responsibility of a village trustee is to be answerable to the community.
Thank you. Okay, question 2, we're going to start with Luke. What are your top 3 priorities if elected into this position?
Yeah, thank you. Number 1 is working on a balanced fiscal plan. You know, we've learned, one of the lessons that we've learned in the village over the last 5 years, we have large expenditures, every village does. We have roads and streets, and we have buildings that we have to take care of. And I think we need to be planful, and we need to think about how we spread those costs over multiple years so that we don't see giant spikes in taxes and then come back down. You know, we need to do that, so we're tackling these projects one at a time. Second, I think transparency and communication are super important, both in the meetings and outside the meetings when we're meeting and talking. You know, I will tell you what I think. I will ask you what you think, and you know, I won't be sitting there giving you some answer that you want to hear. I think that does a disservice to all of us. And finally, planful growth. I think we need to continue to invest in our downtown, in Main Street. We need to do it in a way that keeps the charm and the look and feel of the village that brings people here and helps people fall in love with McFarland.
Maybe some themes, I think, tonight. So I think the first thing I would say is to move the village from a kind of outward-facing communication plan to really much more of a collaboration plan with village residents. So anytime the village is considering any kind of major issue, major development or issue of major spending, there needs to be much more public outreach and involvement, especially among the folks that are going to be most impacted. Impacted is a word my graduate advisor taught me to never use, but the folks that are going to be most impacted by the particular policy or development. So, the burdens should really be on the village and the administration to make sure that the community is informed well in advance. And that doesn't mean sending out letters or sending out messages. It means actually gathering information back from residents. So that's probably number one. The second one is a lot more specific, which is that we need to increase the availability of housing that people can actually afford. Particularly, housing that allows seniors to downside if they desire to downside, but then stay in the community. So I don't ever want to have it happen where a senior has to leave the community because of lack of available housing. And I'm not even talking about low-income housing, but that's important too. I'm just talking about housing that families can actually afford. The benefit of expanding senior housing is that it also frees up larger single-family homes that folks like my parents are just sitting on and no longer need, which would have the benefit of increasing enrollment in our schools and also hopefully bringing down housing prices, which then are driving up our taxes. And then finally, we need, similar to what Luke said, we need a long-term strategic plan for building and development in the village that we then stick to. And I emphasize that because some kind of development is inevitable. I think you've heard basically everybody mention that. But we as a village are in control. We have control over this. So we need to establish the rules of the road beforehand so that when developers do come to us, and everyone up here has seen developers come to us, we can say, this is what happens. They don't just get to buy a piece of property and do whatever they want with it. But likewise, for the developments and businesses we do want to have that we've heard from the community, whether it's a cafe or a coffee shop or whatever, they know what we want and where we want it. So not all businesses are created equal and not all spaces are created equal. So we do need to see more development, but we need to make sure we have a really consistent process to facilitate the stuff that we want and also kind of prevent the stuff that we don't want or where we don't want it. Hopefully that made sense.
Thank you. Kathy? What are your top three?
Okay, that's what
Priorities,
I thought. That's what I
if
thought.
elected.
But then I looked over here and I'm like, oh, that doesn't seem right. Sorry. My top three priorities, if elected to this position, are first, improve the communication and accountability of the board by increasing public accessibility to the board and by expanding the notification radius for proposed projects, conducting open office hours, and requiring that all data and information from staff be shared with all of the board members. Secondly, involve the Finance Committee at the initial stage of the budget development process to ensure community priorities are being met with continued involvement of the Finance Committee throughout the entire budget process. And third, focus development on the needs of young families coming to the village and elderly residents who are looking to downsize, while remaining mindful of the effects of new development on the school district and student enrollment numbers as we grow together.
Thank you.
Okay, so my priorities are a little more specific and targeted, I guess. So the first one is, first priority is going to be the remodeling of the current village administration building as cost effectively as possible, providing adequate room for those that will be utilizing space here. Second priority is to finalize a new East Side future growth and development plan that would prevent Sigilco Road from becoming a semi-truck route of any magnitude and ensure that Sigilco Road remains a safe, family-friendly corridor for all users, both McFarland side and Madison side. And my third priority would be just to maintain the integrity of what's left of our small but historic downtown.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, question 3, we'll start with Scott. And I will ask, are you in favor of new business growth in McFarland? Please explain.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to come up and say blanket they're against all businesses. So of course I'm in favor of new business in McFarland, but there's a big caveat, which is that not all businesses and not all business locations are created equal. There are plenty of locations in McFarland that are great for some businesses. You can think about on the 51 corridor being great locations for manufacturing or louder businesses or businesses that need more space that would be completely inappropriate or ill-suited for other places in the village. Likewise, there are there are businesses we on the Plan Commission have heard residents ask for years. Why can't we get more restaurants? Why can't we get more coffee shops? Why can't we get a smaller grocery store? We've been hearing that for a long time. And those are certainly the businesses we want to encourage and bring into the village. So yes, I'm very much in favor of new businesses, as long as, there's always a but, as long as they're in the long-term financial interest of the village and do not upset existing neighborhoods or make it harder for residents to live here. So that's a big caveat, but I want new businesses, but I don't want them to ruin anything about the character of the village that we have.
Thank you. Kathy?
Of course, I am in favor of new business growth in McFarland. In January, I checked in with one of our newest professionals in McFarland, whose business has been open for about 2 years. I asked what is most important to them and their business in McFarland. I was told keeping our small town character and charm was most important. I believe we can grow our business community and maintain what makes McFarland special and unique. We need to start with clearly defined terms and definitions regarding development. I've heard many convoluted definitions for what falls under the categories of business, light industrial, manufacturing, commercial, and dare I say blighted. Updating the entire zoning code of ordinances is already a village project for 2025. This presents a great opportunity to align our zoning with development plans that incorporate not only recent feedback from our residents, but future involvement with them. My nonpartisan background and nonprofit experience have given me the opportunity to develop the skills to work with people who have varying viewpoints. I'm confident we can find solutions specific to McFarland's needs, not cookie cutter or ram this through anywhere solutions. We can learn the lessons of what has and has not worked for our neighbors in Monona, Cottage Grove, Oregon, Verona, and other Dane County communities. We are all facing the same issues. Getting the community involved in projects up front rather than later in the process will reduce frustrations for the taxpayers, board, staff, and developers. We need to balance providing amenities against the tax burden on residents, particularly those on fixed incomes.
Ken?
Okay. So I was once a small business owner here in McFarland, selling spring plants from our greenhouse on Sigilco Road and also at the McFarland hardware store. We also provided lawn care and landscaping. I encourage and support anyone with an idea and some ambition to start a business. It can be hard work, but also very rewarding. I loved getting to know the residents and took pride in giving them the best I could. I support business in all forms, brick and mortar and home-based. I think the village should support new business efforts in reasonable ways, but not by buying properties at taxpayers' expense and then giving that property away for free to force new development in any given area. I am in favor of natural development, as fast or slow as that may be. I have come to the conclusion over the last year that there seems to be some accepted philosophy that we must continually develop in order to keep up with the rising costs of services. I do not accept that philosophy. Where does it end? We have very little land left to develop. Do we start to build up so that we look like downtown Madison in the future? It's a vicious circle, a merry-go-round that we must get off from. We must face it. We cannot develop our way out of debt and into sustainability. I've watched development in McFarland for 50 years, and my taxes still continue to rise, and so does the village debt. I want to explore alternative ways to fund our needs and services without bankrupting our village and its residents.
Thank you. Luke?
So yes, I'm in favor of new business growth in McFarland. Attracting more small businesses to McFarland is a win-win, I think. Small businesses keep the money that they bring in the community. They bring services that we want in the community. I think I've heard a dozen people in the last 2 months talk about wanting a bakery in town, right? And that's one, I think it was mentioned already too. I think we can do it smartly though. We can focus on building our downtown, building on Main Street, building on Farwell, building on Terminal Drives. Those are three very different areas, and the developments in those three places should look like three very different things. I think that doing this is already seen in the village. The McFarland House Cafe, I think, is a great example of a small business that came into our village. The owner lives in our village, brings jobs, brings money. We need to do the same thing as we look out to the east side development. There's going to be a large number of homes, a couple of neighborhoods out there. We need to make sure that we have some of these same services and some of these same shops and things available to the people who will eventually be there. Lastly, bringing new businesses in helps to bring new residents here. And we already know people want to move to McFarland. They want to live here. And one thing that we heard, we had a representative from our school district come a few weeks ago and talk to the board, is that we need homes and we need places in the village for our for young families to come, because the school district needs more kids. There's a limit to how many kids the school district can have, but right now we're way below that and it's very inefficient. And we could serve many more kids with just a little bit more money. So we need to figure out how do we keep our school district healthy and how do we provide the things that will bring people they need into the village.
Thank you. Okay, question 4. We'll start with you, Kathy, this time. How would you work to build trust between the village government and its residents?
I'd start building trust between the village and its residents by doing the following: ensuring open and transparent communication between the village and its residents by enlarging the radius for written notification letters of upcoming projects and making meeting agendas and materials available a week before a scheduled meeting unless emergency status requires otherwise. Reinstating but revising the ordinance for defining a spending cap that triggers the referendum requirement under a new formula. The Finance Committee has already started this work. The village had established guidelines for debt management and borrowing capacity, but in a recent proposal last year, the suggested debt utilization ratio far exceeded the recommendation. It is very unsettling when such variances occur. Taxpayers need more certainty on this issue. Involving the Finance Committee from the start of the budget process and assisting the village administrator and treasurer in the approval of department requests. Why are some streets not being repaved? Taxpayers deserve an explanation for the decisions being made and the priorities being set. Also, in documents provided by village staff, the Government Finance Officers Association has determined it is beneficial to include the costs and effects of capital projects on the current and future operating budgets. Currently, this is not being done consistently. We need to know how much it will cost to maintain what we have built and include those costs when considering new projects.
Ken?
Okay. So, trust in government at all levels is at an all-time low, with only very few trusting any government entity at all. God bless their hearts. We've been lied to, misguided, misdirected, distracted, misinformed, had facts omitted and erased, and truths vilified and censored. Fortunately, the trust in McFarland's government is not that bad, but it has suffered some serious erosion as of late, with many people feeling that the trust they had in the village to be good stewards of their money, good watchdogs for their quality of life, and protectors of our village heritage was not honored. And once trust is lost, it is not easily given back. It will take time, proof by action, and radical transparency to gain back the trust of the residents.
I'd like to continue to build trust between the government and our residents by continuing to be transparent and continuing to reach out. I want to talk to people in the community. I think it's no secret that that over the last few months we've had a number of issues in the village where residents wanted to come and talk and tell us their opinions. And I'm very proud of the village. I'm very proud of how it reacted. I'm happy about my own position and how I reacted. But one of the things that I did is I tried to hear all those voices that were in the room, and I reached out to as many of them as I could, however I could. Facebook, texting, whatever. I met people in their homes. I met people downtown in businesses. I met people on the street because I wanted to talk to people that had opinions different than mine, especially the people who had opinions different than mine, so I can learn and understand. And I want to continue that process as we go through the next 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
I have a bit of a philosophical answer to this, which is, I want everyone to kind of think about the people in their lives that they trust. Maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a person from work, maybe it's a family member, and think about what is it that makes you trust them. And it's probably because you know them, you know their value system, you know what motivates them, you know what gets them out of bed in the morning, and presumably the reason that you trust them is because you have some kind of a shared value system. You believe in the same things that they do. And I think the only way for the village board to improve the trust it has with the community is to follow that exact same process. So just kind of conceptually, I mentioned this before, less talking at residents, less sending out notices, less posting newsletters, less posting on Facebook, and doing more of, going out and listening to community members. So going to the senior coffee and donut hour and listening to what people say about their daily lives. Going to a meat raffle at the Legion and hearing what people talk about, going to noodle night on a Wednesday night at the Mekong, and just it's not about, as an elected official, going and making speeches to these groups. Again, that would be talking at them. That's not how you build trust. Instead, it's just showing your face and listening to what they have to say and hearing about the things that impact their daily lives. Because then when you're having to make a tough decision, even if they don't agree with the decision, they're going to agree that you gave it a good faith hearing and that you were acting in their best interest. So I think there's no other way to you can't fake trust. You have to actually show it through your actions, and that's going to take time. And it's going to, kind of like Luke was saying, it's going to take a lot of face-to-face interactions sitting across from people at a table.
Thank you. Okay, and our last question, we will start with you, Ken. In your role as trustee, how would you ensure that the village is welcoming and inclusive for all residents?
If I'm a village trustee, I'm not naive enough to believe that I'll be able to please 100% of the people 100% of the time. It's a known fact, and I've learned it young in life, that there's a percentage of people that you will not satisfy no matter what you do. As a village trustee, I can't ensure anything. What I can do is vote from the heart, insist on fairness, and promote kindness, acceptance, and loving one another as we are.
Luke?
I think as a trustee, one of the things that we can do is create policies that help put things in place in the village that make the village more welcoming. We support our school district, we support our recreation program in the schools. They use the parks, they use the facilities. I think that's one way that we show how inclusive we are. On my time on the board, I also helped to put in place a gender-neutral bathroom policy. That just means when we're building a new building, let's consider it. Let's ask, is this something we can do here? Does it make sense? We also were able to put in an accessible boat launch at Lewis Park, and hopefully some of you have seen that. It'll be open for use soon as the weather warms up here. And then, of course, we have the inclusive park, which was initially championed by Stephanie Brassington, and thank her for that. And as a member of the Parks and Rec Board, I was able to help see that through its construction and completion, and I'm very proud that we were able to do that in our community. And finally, just through working with local businesses, and again, the schools and some of the school groups, there are a number of ways that the village helps by providing free spaces or eliminating fees for permits on things like the Pride in the Park, Winter Wonderland in the Village, the McFarland Community Festival. These are all ways that we help make McFarland a more welcoming place, and people want to come to our village and be a part of what we're doing.
Thank you. Scott?
So now that I've been a little philosophical, I'm going to be a little more specific this time, which is when I think of inclusivity, a lot of times how I like to put that into action is to think about how a decision or a policy or would affect people who aren't like me. So, I'm a 42-year-old white man from the Midwest. I've got a lot of privileges. Because of that, I also married a doctor, so things work out fairly well for me most of the time. I've got a warm, beautiful house in McFarland, and I know a lot of people aren't like me. I know a lot of people can't afford a house in McFarland. I know a lot of people, don't have access to the same kind of resources and opportunities I do. So I think the first thing with inclusivity is looking at a proposal, looking at a park, looking at a new facility, looking at a new policy, and saying, how is this going to affect folks that aren't like me? How is it going to affect women? How is it going to affect people with disabilities or who don't speak English as their primary language? And it's just about being respectful and thinking down that list. And sometimes it won't have any impact, like, oh, it's going to work equally well for everybody. And sometimes it really will have a difference, and we need to act accordingly. And I think a really specific way that we can kind of put this into action on the board is, we've got different constituency groups kind of in McFarland. I mean, it's one community, but we've got different folks. We've got some seniors, we've got some assisted living facilities, we got a bunch of different schools. And I think it'd be really helpful if the board kind of had a rotation where we were actually going out into the community and meeting with these groups. Going to McFarland Villas and having lunch or something. I mentioned, I'd certainly be willing to go to the Legion for a meat raffle or something like that, but just making sure we are going to the different groups to say, we know you're here, we see you here. If you ever have feedback you want to offer to us, please bring that to us. Oh, and by the way, I'm here right now, so you don't have to go out of your way to bring that to us, because that really communicates that, we're not some high and fancy board, we're just your neighbors, and we're here to do your work. So I think that's probably where it comes from.
Thank you. Kathy?
The people of McFarland are what makes McFarland a great place to live. Everyone deserves to be included, and we should continue the work of the DEIB committee in that effort. Summer traffic in the downtown area is very different than during the school year. We need to encourage more summer community events that build connections within the village and allow families to walk or bike to the downtown. A few ideas are art in the gazebo, downtown farmers markets, garden scavenger hunts, recitals, and music in the parks. In addition to the current and very successful McFarland Community Festival, Pride in the Park, Food Truck Frenzy, and other events. We should invest in accessible spaces such as the new Wabisa Inclusive Park. We need to take advantage of the expansion of the Lower Yahira Bike Trail and determine what opportunities it may provide to us and build on those opportunities to welcome visitors and potential residents to our community. For me, I love walking from my home on Falling Leaves down Main Street to the library to pick up my books on hold. It's an opportunity for me to see and appreciate how beautiful our village is and how lucky we are to be here. I hope that everyone in the village has the same opportunity and that we remain naturally connected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all very much. We are going to take a quick 5-minute break and kind of reset up here. And Carolyn and Stephanie will get you guys set up. But thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do this in the same format. We'll do a minute for introductions and 2 minutes per question and your little 10-second warning. So I'll turn it over to Becky.
All right. Thank you, ladies, for attending tonight and being willing to speak with us. Okay, we will start out with Stephanie tonight. So Stephanie, can you please provide an introduction? Tell us about yourself, your background, your education, and why you are running for village president.
Sure. First of all, thank you to the Chamber for organizing this and sponsoring this event. Thank you to the community for being here. And thank you to all the people behind the scenes recording this and doing whatever they need to do. We really appreciate it. My name is Stephanie Brassington. Our family moved here in 1969. My parents owned a small business in McFarland for 40 years. I graduated from high school here. My 2 kids graduated from high school here. I have 6 grandchildren, 5 of which are in the school district right now. I am the manager of Generations Title Company. I manage 2 offices. I manage employees throughout the entire state. I work with developers, builders, contractors, lenders, real estate agents. I monitor residential building as well as multi-million-dollar commercial transactions. My love for our community runs deep. My commitment to McFarland comes from a multi-generational perspective. I have had the privilege to serve on the village board for the past 10 years. I have also been on the Finance Committee, DEI, Plan Commission, the CDA, Public Safety, Senior Outreach, Public Utilities, Landmarks, and Communications and Technology. I have shown my dedication to my community and my passion to the unique character and values of our village. I am running for village president because I believe that I have the leadership skills to ensure McFarland grows sustainably while preserving what makes our home special. I will foster fiscal responsibility. I want first-time home buyers to call McFarland home. I want our working families and our senior community to be able to live here without fear of unnecessary spending. Together, we need to create opportunities to develop mixed-use business and commercial spaces where both our residents and our businesses can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn?
Okay. Thank you so much, Katie and Becky, and to the Chamber for sponsoring. Thank you all for being here. It's really fun. And thank you, Trustee Brassington, for running. I really appreciate it, and for all the people who have their names on the ballot. My name is Carolyn Cloud. I'm currently your village president. I've lived in the village of McFarland since 2005. We came to McFarland for the schools. We were looking for safer, more supportive schools for our kids, and we were not disappointed. Our very first day at Indian Mound Middle School, Dr. Felker was the principal, and she said she was going to love our kids into a great year. And at that moment, we knew that we were in the right place. My background, I was a village trustee from 2017 through 2019 and 2020 to 2021, and I have been village president for the past 4 years. I have a master's degree in public affairs from the UW-Madison, and I currently work for Dane County running the business office at the Alliant Energy Center. I have a strong background in local government and have worked with all of our community partners, the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District, the Department of Transportation, Department of Natural Resources on our areas of interest. It's my job to look out for the village as a whole as village president and to make the best possible decisions for the village as a whole. I don't have the luxury of hyper-focusing on one single topic or making sure that I only look at how one piece fits into the puzzle. I have done everything that I can do to make this room as big, as inclusive, and as welcoming for as many people as possible. And what we've seen over the last 4 years is more people in these rooms expressing their opinion than you have. So I'd like to be village president to continue the work that we've done, to continue the connections that we've made with our partners, and to continue to have the conversations in these rooms, the hard conversations that we need to have to figure out what our community is going to do next and where our community is going to grow next.
Thank you. Okay, and I will start with question 1 then, and we are going to start with you, Carolyn, so you can keep it going. What is your long-term vision for the village, and how do you plan to achieve it?
Thank you. My long-term vision is that we work together as a community on the things that we need as a community. Many of the things that we do in local government are tough. They take a long time. They're expensive sometimes. They don't always make sense. They have a lot of details. In the village, we have a history of, instead of working together and collaborating on issues that are really, really important and sitting down and talking about them and figuring out the way we're going to go forward, on fighting. We did it about the library, and we put in place, after the library, the most restrictive referendum requirement in the state of Wisconsin for the beautiful community building space that we have. And now as we talk in these rooms and we talk about future projects and we talk about where we're going to go, we talk about how much this community loves the library. Happened with the middle school, it's happened with other things that we need to do, and they're hard and they're expensive and they don't always make sense. And we need to work together to figure out the ways that we are going to do things. We need to come out for the issues that are really important to us and speak up for them. We need to understand as a group how those issues fit together for the long-term financial picture of the village and for the long-term sustainability of the village. We had lots of people come out and talk to us about TID 7. We had lots of people come out and talk to us about the blight. And when we passed the budget, this room was empty. But those types of decisions heavily impact what the budget ends up looking like and what we're able to do in the future. And if we have our conversations in isolation and we don't look at how all of the things that we need to do in the village work together and look together, we won't get to the places that we need to be. And those conversations are tough. And we've opened up the room. I've helped to open up the room to get more people in and set up more conversations. And what I learned in the last year is that we need to continue to open the door and continue to set the stage for how those conversations will happen. Not in ways where people are just standing up, giving a public comment, and we're sitting here and listening, and then we discuss, but in ways where we can all really discuss and come to a common future. Because only in that way, where we're looking at the big picture and how all of the things work together, will we be able to move forward as the community that we want to be, and will we really be the community that we are. There are good, kind, caring people in this community. Every single person in this room is. Both of us are. Katie and Becky are. But we need to find ways to work together, to use our voices, to use our ideas together.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Yes, as a village board, we recognize that communication, planning, and budgeting needs to be open and transparent. While we have made progress in some of this area, I believe that we need to continue to look for opportunities to engage the community. Silence can sometimes be perceived as approval or agreement. I think silence means that we need to look for alternative methods to communicate with the community. I would like to review our policies for public comments, look for ways to provide spaces for back and forth dialogue, and review how our committees are structured to make sure that we haven't unintentionally alienated input from our community. We need to build trust with our community. We need to show as village leaders that we can be trusted to make fiscally responsible choices. By engaging our community early on in the conversations, slowing down our process to make responsible, well thought out decisions, and thoroughly understand the full impact of our decisions, not only from a municipal point of view, but also the overall impact on our community. The long-term vision for our village needs to focus on balancing growth while maintaining our community's character. Growth needs to happen. Our housing studies indicate that we need housing at all levels. Our school district has indicated low enrollment rates, and we all know that McFarland could benefit with an active business and commercial opportunities. We need to encourage developments that offer a variety of housing opportunities that meet the diverse needs of our residents, from young families to retirees, to ensure healthy, growing population. We also need to create opportunities that combine housing with commercial and retail spaces to create more of a live, work, play type of environment.
Thank you. Okay, and Stephanie, you'll continue with the next question. What will you do to build a positive, collaborative work environment among the village board and other local leaders?
By fostering an atmosphere where communication is open and collaborative is prioritized, and respect is mutual. A positive work environment can be created that benefits the entire village board and the community as a whole. Our number one priority is to create shared vision between the entire village board, our administrator, our department heads, and our staff. We all work for our residents, and we should never lose touch with that. We need to work collaboratively with the Chamber of Commerce and business leaders in our community to not only review success stories, but also look for opportunities for improvement to connect and grow our business community. We need to improve our collaborative efforts with the school district to encourage a shared vision of fiscal responsibility and long-term financial impacts to our residents. Encouraging collaboration with all of our residents is essential for fostering a sense of community and ensuring that everyone feels valued and heard. Prioritizing this as a village board goal will help us to create an inclusive environment where every voice matters.
Thank you. Carolyn?
This is an issue that I've worked on since I joined the board. I don't think that the board is always going to have the exact same vision. We shouldn't. We're each individual people representing individual things. But we are elected to work together as a team to bring our unique perspectives, our unique interests, and the facets of the community that we know best to bring to our work. Building a positive and collaborative environment among board members is keeping the lines of communication open and finding ways to continue to work even when we don't agree. Some of our best work gets done in the space of not agreeing, as long as we don't devolve into arguing and division. In addition, we need to work with the communities that surround us. Before I was village president, we were in a feud with the city of Madison. We're now working with the city of Madison and have regular communication with the mayor's office. We have a deputy mayor assigned to work with the village of McFarland. We work with the town of Dunn on a regular basis. We've just recently put forth in a joint meeting a proposal for a boundary agreement. We've been working with Monona and Stoughton and discussing options where we can collaborate, discussing options for transit. We have major road projects that are coming through the village. We have to work with the DOT for about the next 5 years on huge projects that are going to impact us every single day. And I've been building those relationships. I spent some time at a chief executives meeting in 2021 talking to the Secretary of the Department of Transportation about some of the needs of local municipalities. And as a result, when we had an issue last week with our project, the regional director reached out and we had a conversation, and we're working through some of the issues that we need to work through. We've also worked with our state level leaders, wanted to make sure that we made relationships with our local representatives and senators. So as we had 2 new senators and 2 new representatives in our community, I invited them to our community, make sure they met at the McFarland House Cafe, had them come here and hold a budget listening session so that they could get to know us.
Thank you. Okay, question 3. What are your top 3 priorities if elected into this position? Carolyn?
Sure. My top 3 priorities start with staff development and support. McFarland has grown by over 800 people since I joined the village board in 2017. We are growing and we are changing, and we have significant demands on our staff that have grown and changed in the time that we've been here. The expectations of what they do and how they perform on our behalf have changed in real time as we've worked through situations. And we need to grow and support our staff so that we have strong department heads who can help lead us through the things that we need to do as a community. We talk a lot about improved communications, and that'll be my second item, but it's really about helping our staff. We have grown and changed our communications a lot in the last 4 years, and still there are people at every meeting on every topic who haven't heard about the thing that we're talking about. That's going to ever evolve. We have a community of 9,000 people, and some of those people will move out today and some other people will move in. and we will have to grow and change the way we do those communications through that time. We also need to continue to improve our budgeting and capital planning. We've made a lot of changes on those things in the last 4 years as well. We've extended our capital planning out a full 5 years instead of 4 years as we had them before, with another 5 years of capital planning that is there. That is there so that we can start to see what projects are on the horizon. I heard someone speak about road projects. When I was first on the board, we couldn't tell what road project was next or why we were doing it or what was going to happen with that $500,000 that was in the budget. We now have a 10-year road plan, and you can look and see which roads are coming up next. We, for the first time 2 years ago, had a 10-year staffing plan so that we can look at where we are thinking that we need to go with staffing, and we can think about how decisions that we make in 2025 impact things that we might need in 2029 because we can see them. And in 2023, for the first time, while we're not able to do it in 2024, we had a 5-year operating forecast. It was the first time we had done it in the history of the village. We were not able to do it again in 2024. We do now have a finance director, and we'll be able to do that again in 2025. That long-range planning will help us to move forward.
Thank you. And Stephanie, top 3 priorities if elected.
Okay, number 1, fiscal responsibility. Ensure taxpayer dollars are used efficiently, balancing immediate needs with long-term financial stability. Residents need to feel that they are getting good value for their tax dollars. 2, rebuilding trust in village government. Government should be transparent with leadership that listens. We need to actively engage the voices of our residents to help guide our decisions. By engaging with the community, we can ensure that our policies reflect the collective needs and wants of those we have been elected to serve. Number 3, community development planning. Community development should celebrate the unique character and values of our village, foster sustainable growth while preserving what makes our home special. We must strive to create a supportive environment that encourages both new and existing businesses to thrive. We need to attract diverse businesses that align with our community values. We must balance the needs of our businesses with the well-being of our residents. This type of growth will contribute to long-term financial stability and enhance the quality of life for all of us.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, question 4. The village has a high percentage of tax base in residential and a low percentage in manufacturing and other similar types of business types relative to other cities and villages within Dane County. What is the best way for our village to diversify its tax base and attract more businesses?
Sure. The village needs to create an environment conducive to business growth and development. At the same time, we need to balance the needs and wants of our community. We can and we should use tax incentives to make the village more appealing to businesses by reducing their upfront costs. However, we should create industrial parks and business districts. We need to be strategic with the placement of these parks and districts as to not disrupt the safety or quality of life for our residents now and in the future. Even with thoughtful planning, sometimes the reality is that things don't always go as expected. Replanning can be very frustrating, but it's often part of the process. Someone much wiser than me taught us all last fall that plans change. The village could collaborate with the chamber and business leaders to create a targeting marketing campaign that highlights the advantages of locating a business in the village. We also need to ensure that the village offers amenities that attract businesses such as parks, recreation facilities, cultural activities. A vibrant, attractive community can help retain talent and attract business. Thank you.
Thank you. And Carolyn.
As a community, we really need to wrestle with this question. We have talked in this room over and over and over again about how we wanted to have more manufacturing and more business in our community. And as a community, we have shouted down more manufacturing and more business in our community over and over and over again. We will not be able to do both of those things at the same time. It is impossible. That's very hard. So we have to decide, if we want to even have this conversation. Because for 150 years, McFarland has decided not to have this conversation. And we have not allowed manufacturing in our community. And if we don't want to allow manufacturing in our community, it's okay. But we should stop talking about it like it's a possibility. I went to the library a couple weeks ago and I listened to Ron Larson talk about what he called the 4 turning points in McFarland history. And I was like, okay, what's he going to say? And he had 4 things: the railroad, the resort community, the tank farms, and the construction of Highway 51, all of which were about economic development, all of which were major changes, and all of which required compromises in our community. The people who sit up here can make whatever choice this community wants about manufacturing and development, but we shouldn't waste our time talking about it if we won't do it. And we have a company in our community who has bought some land in our community, and we didn't even allow the conversation. I don't know what their proposal was. We voted down a tax increment finance district. We did not talk about the project. And I hope that this community can come to a place where we can honestly talk about what we actually want and understand that we can't have both no manufacturing and a manufacturing tax base at the same time.
Thank you. Okay, question 5. We'll start with Carolyn. In your role as president, how would you ensure that the village is welcoming and inclusive for all residents?
Sure. As the village president, me or anyone else, I'm one person. And I'm the leader of this community at this time. And leadership can set the tone. I can provide support. I can provide my presence at activities, but I am not the whole community. Most of the interactions that our community will have with the village, our community will have with staff. They'll have with the police officer that they go to for help, the paramedic or firefighter who arrives to assist with a difficult situation, a public works employee who comes to fix a trash can lid or repair a water main break, a senior outreach caseworker who gets to know their parent, grandparent, or themselves, a library employee who helps a resident find a special book or answer a complicated question, communication staff member who records a meeting or makes a timely Facebook post, or a poll worker who helps through a complicated voter registration process or manages the long lines in a way that works. Those actions, the actions of all of our staff, are what makes the village. They're what our residents see as the village. And the role of the board, as led by the village president, is to support our staff with the resources that they need to be the face of the village and to do the work of the village, not to do the work themselves. And that work, the work of all of our staff every single day, is what makes our community welcoming and inclusive to all.
Thank you. Stephanie.
Yes. As president, my approach to ensuring the village is welcoming and inclusive for all residents would focus on creating a culture of respect, understanding, and active engagement. 10 years ago, when I first decided to run for village board as a write-in candidate, my main focus was an inclusive park for families with special needs. My work as president of the community festival the past 4 years is also a testament to my dedication to an inclusive and welcoming community. A thriving McFarland is one where every voice matters and everyone is treated with respect. As your village president, I will continue to strive for a community that is welcoming to all, where diverse perspectives are not just heard, but they are valued.
Thank you. Okay, as a reminder, our closing remarks, we would like to keep to 1 minute. So please provide any closing remarks, final statements, or other topics of interest. Stephanie, we'll start with you.
Sure. Again, thank you to the Chamber for giving us this opportunity to share our thoughts on the community. Thank you to the community for being here. Over the course of my time on the village board and having the opportunity to literally share 100 cups of coffee and participate in amazing conversations with so many of you, I have very strong vision for a stronger, more connected community. one where every resident has the opportunity to thrive and where transparency, inclusivity, and progress are the pillars of my leadership. I want to thank each and every one of you for your dedication, for your time, and your voices throughout this entire process. No matter the outcome, what matters most is that we have come together to envision the future of our village. Let's continue to work together, support one another, build a community that we all are proud to call home. Thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you. And Carolyn.
In my 4 years as village president, I have helped our village government to move into a new era. I've helped our staff to grow and develop, created a new personnel policy manual that helps to cover our staff. We've helped to develop our leadership and create increasing programs with our leadership, and we've created a new budgeting process. We've also made unprecedented connections with our other local communities that we need. McFarland isn't an island, and we can't work as an island. I'd like to be your village president, and I ask you for your vote to continue that work into the future. For all of us to come together, people in this room, people who are not in this room, and work for the best possible outcomes that we can have for the community. Many things, no matter how many years we serve on the village board or as village president, will get done. We're laying groundwork for the future. We've reimagined and redeveloped our relationship with the school district. We've reimagined and redeveloped our relationship with the city. And we can continue to reimagine and redevelop our relationships with each other to build an increasingly strong community. So I ask you for your vote on April 1st, and I ask you for your continued participation in this amazing community. Your voices matter, your efforts matter.
Thank you.
About a round of applause. Thank you very much. We will take another 5-minute break while we set up for our next candidates. Everyone would please take a seat. We will get started here.
We're not popular. That makes me feel slightly better.
That'd be
He
great,
is
honey.
totally going to.
I know, he's going to.
I can't tell if somebody has a TV on or something.
He's gonna blow you kisses the whole time.
Oh, so sweet.
Oh, I'm not the only one leaving.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I mean, at least he's
Okay, I just want to thank everybody again for coming out tonight. Thank you to our trustees that are running and our two presidential candidates. Again, I'm the chamber president, so it just does mean a lot to me that you guys take the time to prepare and respond to the questions. Unfortunately, I need to sneak out. I have a prior engagement that I need to be at, so I'm going to be turning over the question asking to our executive director, Katie. Thank you again, everybody.
Thanks, Becky.
All right, we will continue with the same format. We will start with the introduction for a minute, and then the questions will be 2 minutes. So starting with the introduction, we'll start with Megan. Please provide an introduction and tell us about yourself, background, education, and why you are running for the McFarland School Board.
All right, thanks for having me. As Katie said, I'm Megan Fessler. I'm a certified public accountant, a mom of 2 teenage boys in the schools here, a wife, current school board member, nature lover, bookworm, and data nerd. I love the McFarland community. We've lived here for over 15-ish years and have watched it grow and shift with our changing education landscape. And as we know, that has really shifted over the last decade. Folks move here for the schools, and I'm really proud of that, and I really want it to stay that way. I feel public education is a bedrock for our society. So I aim to ensure that all students in our community continue to have access to strong education, an education that prepares them to thrive long after they are launched from the McFarland education system.
Thank you. Meredith?
I'm Meredith Huey. My family moved here into the village 2 years ago. Prior to that, we lived right across Siegel Co. Because we moved out of state. Scott, I think I beat you. We moved here in 2018, so I'm more of a newbie than you. But we moved here for the schools and a sense of community. We have 2 children. Our oldest is in 1st grade at CEPS, and our youngest is 2.5 and a future Spartan. I would like the opportunity to support our district the way that they currently support my family. I was involved in the referendum advocacy with Spartan Forward, a member of the Human Growth and Development Committee, and have volunteered at various school functions. I also currently serve on the Village of McFarland's Public Safety Committee and am engaged in our village's development plans. I'm sure you've seen my face. I'm sorry in advance. My professional nursing background and experience in healthcare, IT, and leadership equips me with the skills in communication, analysis, and project planning that I hope will be valuable for making informed, balanced decisions on the school board. I am a proud type 1 diabetic of 32 years, and as an LGBTQ plus family, I bring a perspective shaped by my lived experience to advocate for learners to be seen, valued, and supported. I am committed and look forward to engaging with you to listen and learn.
Thank you. Okay, Meredith, we'll start with question 1. What excites you the most about wanting to join the McFarland School Board?
Honestly, for me, it's a learning opportunity. As a parent without a background in education and a non-Wisconsin native, I have a lot to learn. My oldest asked me not too long ago what I wanted to be when I grow up. And I responded first with, "What makes you think I'm grown up?" And his reply was, "Oh, Mom." But in all seriousness, I always thought how cool it would be to continue to learn new things. My hope of joining the village meets that, the school board meets that head on. I ask a lot of questions, if you haven't noticed, and I try to fit puzzle pieces together for a larger picture. Even better, in this case, that my questions this time around might actually help our students and help our kids, our parents, families, district, and teachers. My community involvement has also introduced me to some amazing people and parents. Megan is one of those said people, so I'm very happy for the opportunity to continue to work with the people I've gotten to know and those who I have yet to meet.
All right. Well, as a current school board member, finishing out my first term, I've really learned how our education system works. I've experienced how our community engages with the schools, both in good times and in challenging ones. We all know we had a challenging last year, right? My 3 years in office have also helped me understand the varying needs and desires of our community with regards to the school system that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. It's a really unique perspective, and I'm really grateful for all that my first term has taught me. So the part that really excites me is that I love seeing how the sausage is made, to make that cliche analogy. With 2 kids in the district, I have that, parental day-to-day perspective, and being on the board provides a much deeper understanding for how students and families experience and how that perspective is developed and nurtured by the school district. And that experience over the last 3 years will allow me to be and continue to be a strong, effective advocate for our students and educators, because we're going to need that more now than ever. And I'm just really excited to continue the work that the current school board did with setting up the strategic plan and seeing that through.
Okay, Megan, we will start with you with question number 2. How do you plan to engage parents, families, and the broader community in the decision-making processes of the school board?
Yeah, thank you. If you've been paying attention to the school board at all for the last couple of years, you know that communication and engagement with families and the community has been one of our main priorities, and we continue to make progress in that area. Along with district administrators, we regularly seek out input from staff, students, families, not only through annual surveys, but through listening sessions and more casual conversations. Each year we gain more perspective as we see the trends emerge from this data, and this really helps shape our decisions. Without your feedback and conversations with you and engagement, we can't do that. We can't make decisions that you want us to make. When we're faced with the big policy and curriculum changes, you might have noticed that we engage folks in the community to help inform our choices, like the Strategic Plan Committee, who helped develop our new strategic plan, Human Growth and Development Committee, like Meredith said, the Referendum Engagement Group, and the Citizens Advisory Facility Naming Committee that's meeting right now, learning more about Conrad Alveum and the naming process there. And that's just all been in the last 3 years while I've been on the board. And they're always a very diverse mix of people on those committees that really represent each part of our community. These have really proven essential to understanding our community needs and perspectives in so many ways. As with anything, there's always room to improve and grow. I would like the board to continue to hold our regular office hours that we started during the referendum. We want to be accessible to you and know that we're here to listen to your feedback. Let's see, we continue to find new ways to grow our reach beyond the schools, because we really need to reach the part of our community that does not have kids in the school. That's 70% of our community. So we've, especially through the operational referendums, we've learned that we weren't reaching them before. And so now that is another one of our big goals. One of the ways that we've done that is that Erin Tarnitzer is now a member of the Chamber of Commerce, our hosts for tonight. And that's really been invaluable, connecting with businesses, reaches some of that community. We also have a newsletter that right now is in email form, but my goal is to make sure that that is, that we push a big campaign to get people to sign up for that, and then also to have it in all other forms, mailing specifically, so that we're, constituents are getting that information on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Okay. Good ideas. I think improving communication between schools and families requires an approach that leverages our technology, building trust, and ensuring accessibility.
I am fully supportive of ongoing endeavors to consolidate communication tools and frequency of those communications, especially for families with children in multiple schools and for those in the community who do not have kids in the school district. I open our CEPS Weekly S'more newsletter and see the community events at the bottom as well. More of this, please. Let's use the technology we have to the fullest of its potential and educate families and the community on how to use the tools, especially for new families to the school and district. And why not highlight the Village Lookout newsletter and new tools from our village partners while we're at it? At the same time, we must proactively ensure the materials are understood, accessible, and inclusive for all students and families, language translation services, new residents, etc. We should also use the schools as points of community outreach. We had local businesses at the IMMS Family Fun Night. How amazing. Can we find more opportunities to tie existing village or school events to be more united? I think we can. The goal is reliability and relevance. Families in the community want to know what's happening without drowning in the noise. At the end of the day, planning for and doing communication fails if it's not understood.
Thank you. Okay, Meredith, we will start with you for question number 3. Our community recently approved an operational referendum, yet our district, like many others in the state, continues to face budget challenges. What specific strategies would you support to maintain a balanced budget while ensuring high-quality educational opportunities for students and staff retention?
Big question that I think is kind of getting at two different but equally important integrated points. The first being budget and fiscal responsibility, and the second being retention of staff and students. So first, kind of the financial piece. The district needs to be at the table for village decision-making and vice versa. How our village attracts businesses or development projects could boost the local tax base and continue to support McFarland as a destination for families and their students. A broader tax base means the burden is spread across more contributors, which could lower our individual rates. I'm keen to collaborate on opportunities to share resources with the village at large and explore what those possibilities could look like. Ask questions, think outside the box. What if we jointly managed particular facilities or spaces? What if we shared supplies and community services? Joint services may improve the district relationship with the wider community. We all want quality education and village services without disproportionately straining our taxpayers. It's not about one entity subsidizing the other, but about finding unity to lighten the load for everyone. And as the question alluded to, many districts and municipalities are facing similar pressures. So a united front, perhaps with our neighboring communities, could amplify our voice. This might reduce the local tax levy needed for schools and village services, directly benefiting our neighbors. Together, we're a stronger force to request increased state aid to offset our local tax reliance. And that second piece, retention. As a school board member, attracting and retaining high-quality teachers and staff means tackling the root issues: compensation, culture, and support, while working within budget realities. We must strive to be competitive by starting with pay that beats nearby districts. We need to keep this in mind during our forthcoming contract negotiations. And beyond pay, we should equip teachers with what they need: technology, supplies, daily assistance. With increasing needs in the classroom, 2 hands is not often enough. And last but definitely not least, appreciation, appreciation, appreciation. Feeling heard keeps people invested. We need to publicly celebrate our staff wins, not just within the school environment, but within our village. In an ever-increasing time of uncertainty for safety, we need to treat our teachers and staff with the same TLC we treat our learners. Great staff attracts great staff. And with great staff comes great students and families.
Thank you.
Yep. You're going to hear some themes in those lines. Going through 2 operational referendum campaigns really taught me a lot about just education funding and how everything in an education system is connected. You make one change here, and it's going to impact 3 other things over here that you wouldn't necessarily think it does, which gives some opportunities for, like it can be a challenge and it can also be a positive thing. But ultimately, ensuring high-quality education opportunities boils down to support and belonging. Our public education continues to face a shortage of teachers and funding shortfalls, like Meredith referenced. It's a profession that continues to require more hours than is included in a teacher's salary. The needs of our learners have also shifted in such a way that our teachers are doing so much more to support our students than providing instruction on curriculum. It's a school board's responsibility, I feel, to guarantee the systems we create and oversee are streamlined to protect that instruction and prep time for students. Nope, for teachers. We need to understand that when we ask more of our educators, we need to be thoughtful about the system that goes in place to help them achieve that support. And when the educators' needs are met, they have more bandwidth to support our learners in their needs, which in turn increases student achievement, which is what we're all going after, right? I'll continue to scrutinize the budget so that we ensure the ability to offer competitive wages and benefits. Another thing that's going to be really important, because as we know from the operational referendum, most of the budget issue comes from the state funding model. So advocacy at the state level to secure those changes so that we're protecting not just the wages and benefits for staff and educators, but for the funds for the support systems in place to help educators support our students. And then lastly, and Meredith, you hit it right on the head, the collaboration between the school board and the village board, continuing to foster that is going to be really imperative. We've made great strides and have done so much collaboration in the last couple of years, from shared projects where we save money and resources, to making development plans that encourage families to move here, and for supporting housing and supporting our aging population as we continue to support our schools.
Thank you. Okay, Megan. Question 4. What is your vision for the future of education in our district? And how do you plan to work collaboratively with the other board members to achieve that vision?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I'm totally just stealing the vision from the strategic plan. We had a large amount of community members work on that. And so I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. And so my vision of the future of education here is creating an equitable, inclusive community committed to student belonging, achievement, and growth. I really firmly believe, and research supports, that when learners feel emotional safety and belonging in a learning community, they achieve at much higher rates. We know that when we support one, we support all, and by uplifting and advocating for an individual, we're also supporting the collective goal of student learning. When all school board members believe this, collaboration is easy, even when we disagree or having differing perspectives. Collaboration looks like respectful conversations, open-mindedness to differing experiences, holding each other accountable to our commitments. And this is very much already our current school board culture. And so I will just work to maintain that. We already do a lot of collaboration, and it's going to be easy to foster.
Meredith?
My future of education is meeting the unique needs of students and educators. I want to support academic and extracurricular programs and policies that enhance student learning and achievement for a given learner. I want to promote communication and active participation from parents, teachers, community members, and village leaders in school board decisions to support our district. I want our teachers to undeniably and tangibly feel supported when they walk into a classroom each day. Do you feel safe? Do you have the hands you need? And as far as collaboration, I think Megan's right on with that. I try and approach life with the following statement, that we're all human, and for the most part, we're all doing the best we can day in and day out. Leading with grace creates a collaborative atmosphere. And I alluded to this earlier, but it's also asking questions and possibly more importantly, listening and hearing the answers. If I don't understand something, I ask. And most often than not, someone else in our community and in our school district has the same one.
Thank you. Okay, the fifth question, Meredith. In your role as a school board member, how would you ensure that the district lives up to its mission of meeting the needs of every learner every day and its vision of creating an equitable and inclusive community committed to student belonging, achievement, and growth?
I think this one's going to be pretty short because it's the same thing I just said. Thoughtful and respectful questions. Holding our district accountable and each other accountable to meeting the strategic plan and meeting our vision, and listening and learning from those answers. Our incredibly gifted educators and administrators are the most excellent source of what they need to produce the best Spartans. And it is in those answers and thinking outside the box where we can thrive and make an impact. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, so our role as a school board is to really set the vision and direction for the school district and then guide and oversee the process in which administration achieves the vision. It's not to make the day-to-day decisions. It's not to interfere with the experts. It is our job to set up the system so that they can achieve that student learning. And it might not be glamorous, but much of that work happens in policy review and policy creation. We have a regular cycle for policy review now, so that we can apply this lens of the strategic plan to each policy frequently enough so that we can adapt them for the shifting needs of our learners and our education environment. With each policy I review, I ask, does this wording, it comes down to specific wording. Does this wording help support all learners or hinder their learning? Will it keep them all safe? Or is this policy allow for all learners to have their needs met? The next part of that policy work is to evaluate how things are going from all perspectives. My colleague Tom Mooney he is the #1 fan of evaluation, and we're going to miss his perspective on that. But it is, you have to evaluate how things are going from the community perspective, the families of students, educators, and learners. So developing the systems to track that data and feedback gives us metrics that we can review for changing needs. When we were at the school board and joint village meeting earlier this week, Brittany Brazel and Aaron Tarnitzer teased us a little bit with the results from the student survey this spring, saying that all the indicators are up. Specifically, more kids feel as though their culture is valued at school and their sense of value, belonging has improved. So like I said before, when kids feel emotionally safe and valued at school, it sets them up to learn better. And this will show up in our achievement metrics like test scores, satisfaction surveys, and behavioral referrals. We can tell all of those metrics are better, and what we're doing is working. So we're just going to keep doing that.
Great, thank you. Okay, in the final here with a closing, Megan, if you would like to take your last minute here to provide any closing remarks, final statements, or any other topics of interest.
Yeah. I would like to say that I have loved every minute that I've served on the McFarland School Board and serving the McFarland School District. And yes, even during the challenging times last year, having crucial conversations with people and challenging ones, it's an opportunity for growth in many ways, and allows us to better represent what everyone needs and wants. With each event or meeting, I always walk away learning something new about how our district operates and how integral it is to our community. Or I learn a new perspective from a grandparent or educator I hadn't considered before. I'm grateful for the opportunity to shape our district and to watch our learners be the best they can be. Lastly, I just want to thank the Chamber for hosting the candidate forums. It's really important to vote, and even better to be an informed voter. So I really thank all of you for being here and wanting to be an informed voter, and learning more about the candidates tonight.
I'll start with my thank yous. You can just flow right in.
Go right in.
We call that transition. Thank you to the Chamber for having us here. Thank you, Katie, for your kind questions, thorough questions as well. And thank you to the community for showing up. It is vitally important to our success. At the end of the day, I'm a mom who wants to get engaged and be engaged. I for sure do not have all the right answers or a crystal ball to know exactly what works and what doesn't, but I want to try and I care about my kids, about your kids, and about our community. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you. I don't take that lightly. And thank you to the current school board for setting the bar really high. It's a lot of work, and you do it very well. So thank you for the opportunity to hopefully join you.
Great, thank you. Well, yes, on behalf of the Chamber, thank you guys. Thank you, all the candidates, for coming. Thank you for you guys coming on this beautiful night to come and, as she said, to be informed voters. So April 1st, mark your calendars. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.